Good evening, little masters, and welcome to episode 385 of the Prancing Pony podcast, where, well, the podcast has grown in numbers and in the esteem of men.
Is that going to make you the less easy to rebuke or restrain?
Have I ever been easy to rebuke or restrain?
Alas, no. Okay, folks, pull up a bench in the common room and join us. I'm Sara Brown, the Shieldmaiden of Rohan, and I'm here with the man of the West, who does not need to be commanded to cease his voyaging, Alan Sisto.
No way I don't. I'd be one of the Ventures who stays behind in Numenor, like handling PR or something, in-house counsel maybe. Folks, join us as we meet Erendis, who, it turns out, only has eyes for Aldarion.
Yeah, that's not going to last. But anyway, no matter whether you came to Middle-earth through the books, the films, the TV show, or something else, each of you is welcome here in our common room. The Prancing Pony podcast continues in our 10th season of reading and talking our way through Middle-earth with conversations, digressions, and even speculations.
That's right. Not to mention a few puns and bad jokes every once in a while.
Especially from you.
Yeah, well, maybe. Our purpose, though, our goal really is to dive deep into the lore, to discuss the story, our favorite characters and themes, Tolkien's inspirations, and a whole lot more.
And while we take the work seriously, the same really can't be said about ourselves. We're just a couple of friends chatting at the pub, and we're glad you've joined us.
And I'm sure you'll be glad you joined as well. But before we get to tonight's chapter discussion, we're sitting down for a chat that we think you're going to really enjoy. Going all the way back to episode 31 in the first season of the PPP, we have had the privilege of following Dr. Bill Fliss, the archivist at Marquette University, and his inspiring project, the Tolkien Fandom Oral History Collection. Now, he's been a guest on the show a few times. He's not here today, folks. That's not who we're talking to. We have even had our 22 PPP moot at Marquette, not just to see the incredible exhibition of Tolkien's manuscripts, but to encourage more of our folks to take part in the Tolkien Fandom Oral History Collection.
And we're not the only ones in awe of the scope and nature of this project. Our guest today is a documentary filmmaker and Tolkien fan who, upon finding out about this oral history project, decided to create a documentary following that project. Folks, please welcome to the PPP, the director of The Muster at Marquette, Andrew Coons.
Hello, everyone. Sara, Alan, thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome.
Absolutely our privilege. We're looking forward to this. Though, of course, we're going to start by asking the question we ask everybody who comes on the PPP, including Bill Fliss way back in the day. What was your first experience of Tolkien's works? And then what is it about the works that keeps you coming back?
Oh my gosh. I love this question, particularly that second part of it. What keeps me coming back to it? I read Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit back when I was probably about 12 years old. We lived at a place where the library was literally right next door. So my brother and I would walk across a parking lot, go to the library, grab everything off the shelves we could. And that's how I discovered Lord of the Rings. My mother had read, I think she had read just The Fellowship of the Ring at the time. And was like, you might like this. You like fantasy, you like Chronicles of Narnia and things like that. And I mean, talk about just stepping into another world. I was gone from the minute I started reading those books. So soon after, the films came out, and I was incredibly inspired by those, and particularly all the behind the scenes content. So I would have watched those when I was about 13, 14 years old. I got the extended edition DVD box set and just watched all, 20 something hours of behind the scenes content. And that's really what inspired me to decide that filmmaking of some sort was a career that I wanted to go into.
Oh, wonderful.
So, and I've been able to do that.
Yeah.
Fabulous. So how did you discover this project, and why did you choose it as a subject for a documentary film?
Yeah, so my wife actually is the one who found one of these Tolkien manuscript showings. We live in the Twin Cities. We live in a suburb of Minneapolis. So Marquette University of Milwaukee is not that far away. And she got us tickets for myself and her and a couple friends of ours who were coming in from Indiana. And we all went to see the exhibition and the showing. And in doing just general research about that and what can I expect to see, stumbled across the webpage for the Fandom Oral History Collection. So
it's a pretty amazing project.
It's incredible. It's incredible. So soon after seeing the manuscripts and hearing Bill Fliss talk about them, I had my appointment to schedule my own recording, my 3-minute recording. And it felt like a real big swing to say, hey, can you hold on for a couple minutes afterwards? I'm a documentary filmmaker and I'm interested in learning more about your project. We struck up a dialogue and eventually kind of came to the conclusion that, we think there's a cool story here. And it went from there.
That's awesome. But working with Bill is just, I'm sure it was fantastic. I mean,
he's the best.
He really is, isn't he? Yeah.
He is amazing. Super accommodating.
Very much so. We were so fortunate to have our PPP moot there in 2022. He was so wonderful to work with. He and his whole team. I mean, it was really from the top down. That organization there is fantastic.
Every time I've listened to him, he's just so interesting. He's got so much stuff to tell us.
I know.
Absolutely wonderful.
And what a project. I mean, this oral history fandom project is amazing. The idea of trying to get, the same number as we get the writers of Rohan, to get 6,000 people.
6,000 may not have been as many as Theoden was hoping to get, but it's a lot of people to try to get to.
He wanted 10,000 plus.
Yes.
But it's a good thing he didn't get 10,000 or Bill would have a quite a project ahead of him.
Indeed.
Well, I got a chance, of course, to watch a pre-release version of the film. Folks, those of you listening now, the film's already been out. It actually will have dropped on Hobbit Day on September 22nd. But of course, we're recording this a little before that. I have to say, I was flabbergasted to see some familiar faces and hear familiar voices. Several listeners of the PPP actually show up in this documentary. I got to give a shout out to Josh and Sara, to Bonnie, to Graham, and probably some others that just I may not have known or even listeners. And I know there are a lot of listeners in the project itself. I'm even number 180 in the second Aered, and we've got so many folks in there. But enough about the PPP and our amazing listeners. I wanted to ask you this question. What other Tolkien adjacent projects would you like to do in the future as a documentary filmmaker? I mean, you watch those incredible behind the scenes films. Maybe give us like two answers. Like what's maybe a small short-term project that you think, I really can do this with relative ease.
Yeah.
And then what's your dream what if project?
So I think in doing the muster at Marquette and talking to Bill about the fandom and kind of diving in, my interest is still peaked there. I think there's a lot more about the fandom to explore, and maybe in something a little bit longer than a short documentary like the muster is. So I think something about just the way fandom brings people together, the way it fills a very important part of our lives, and especially in an age where we're being pulled farther and farther apart from each other via distance and commutes and all sorts of things. Like how is fandom helping to fill the gap of those third spaces that are disappearing for a lot of us? So that could be interesting.
That really would be, yeah.
I mean, as far as keeping in the documentary vein, as far as like a pipe dream project, would be really interested to do something long format about Arwen. I think that there's a real interesting character there. I think there's an interesting dichotomy of what people know because of the Jackson films and the way the role was kind of zhuzhed up for those, and then what's in the book, the way it ties into Beren and Luthien. I just think that there's an interesting story there to tell that people are less familiar with. So who knows if I'll ever get to that, but something around Arwen would be really interesting.
Oh, that's a great choice.
I have a quick question. I'm thinking about documentaries, and you mentioned the fandom. First one that comes to mind, it's a little out of date now because it was back in 2005, but did you ever see Ringer's Lord of the Fans, the sort of feature-length documentary?
Yes, and it's incredible. And I think that what's great about these documentary films is that there's snapshots of where things were at that time. And so it's still relevant today, even though it was made in 2005, but things have changed. Exactly. And so, what updates, are there to report on in the last 20 years and whatnot?
Absolutely. That would be a tremendous film to see, some sort of an expansion on that, like looking into the fandom. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah, same. But here's a really important question for you.
Yes.
Yeah. How can people watch the muster at Marquette? Because I think they need to know how they can actually get to see that.
Yes.
And what is it that you hope viewers will take away from watching your film?
So Muster at Marquette is available for free on my production company's YouTube channel. So it's youtube.com/@Village Pictures Co. And it will be available in perpetuity there for free, never behind a paywall. And then as far as what I hope people get out of it, I mean, I think first and foremost, I hope that if you haven't lent your voice to the muster, have not done your 3-minute recording, that this inspires you to do so. I think the thing that I most took away from the experience, and that I hope people feel as well, is the importance of this archive for future generations, the importance of these voices being preserved. There's a powerful moment in the film where Bill talks about people who have passed on, who now have their voices and their thoughts on Tolkien preserved. That's a really powerful thing. That's a thing that filmmaking, I think, uniquely allows us to do, and audio recordings uniquely allow us to do. So I hope people are inspired by that and throw their voice in.
Oh, that's lovely.
I hope they do as well. We'll make sure to include a link to the film, of course. We want folks to go watch The Muster at Marquette. But I think as a result of what you just said there, I'm going to make sure we also include a link to the Oral History Project so that folks who listen to this episode, listen to this interview, can go ahead and both watch the film and then immediately take part. I hope that they do that as well.
Love it.
Andrew, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a real privilege to have you here. We wish you all the success on the Muster at Marquette and any future projects for that matter. And may it serve to help fill the ranks of the Oral History Project at Marquette.
Thank you both so much for having me on.
Well, that was delightful, wasn't it? Meeting Andrew.
Yeah, and what a project. I loved really watching the film. I feel special. I got to watch the film before it came out. It was great.
No, I'm looking forward to seeing it. And I do think that Bill Fliss's project is so important. That idea of capturing the oral history.
Imagine, I'm looking into the future and thinking about fans 50 years from now, 100 years from now, who will be able to go back and hear the voices of people from... I think he started in 2014, 2013, maybe might have been when it began.
So
I know
over 10 years ago now.
Yeah, exactly. So you're going to hear a range of voices, not only from the past, but from a range of the past, because we're only at, I think he's at, close to 1,100 now. So if he does hit that 6,000 goal, it won't be for probably another 10 or 15 years. But what an amazing slice of history that will be.
It's an incredible resource. But what Andrew was saying there about hearing the voices of people who have already passed.
Yeah.
I know, that's just amazing.
It really is. And how important that is. I sort of understand that uniquely because as a podcaster, I have that privilege of knowing my voice will be out there long after I'm gone. But for the fans who don't do that, who don't talk and give talks and go to moots and, get their opinions and thoughts recorded, the ordinary fan, and I'm putting air quotes around that because we're all just ordinary fans at the end of the day.
100%.
Their voices are just as important as Tom Shippey's and Verlin Flieger's and Corey Olsen's. They're just as important as, those of us who do the podcasting or content creation. And I'm so excited that exists for the sake of history.
Yes, I think it's wonderful. I really do.
I'm so glad that Andrew was able to show that to people. I think it's like the best sales pitch Bill has is to say, you know what, you want to know more about this? Watch this 10-minute short form documentary. You're going to really love it.
Yeah, I agree. And back to your voice being held in perpetuity. I just had a visual of your voice being sent off to, I don't know, Voyager 17 or whatever it is. And the first thing the aliens hear when they come near to Earth is the sound of Alan Sisto's dulcet tones.
Doing something like Barry White or...
Oh my goodness, can you imagine? I think that they would probably decide to build that bypass right through Earth.
I was going to say, this is absolutely time for that hyperspatial bypass. The Hitchhiker's Guide crossover we knew we needed.
But enough of our nonsense.
Yes, always.
Shall we move into Aldarion and Erendis' nonsense instead?
We should,
okay.
Absolutely.
Well, you should start with the first reading.
I'll pick up exactly where we left off last week. In that time, Aldarion became estranged from his father and ceased to speak openly of his designs and his desires. But Almarian the queen supported her son in all that he did, and Meneldur, perforce, let matters go as they must. For the venturers grew in numbers and in the esteem of men, and they called them Uinendili, the lovers of Uinen, and their captain became the less easy to rebuke or restrain. The ships of the Númenóreans became ever larger and of greater draught in those days, until they could make far voyages, carrying many men and great cargoes, and Aldarion was often long gone from Númenor. Tar Meneldur ever opposed his son, and he set a curb on the felling of trees in Númenor for the building of vessels, and it came therefore into Aldarion's mind that he would find timber in Middle-earth, and seek there for a haven for the repair of his ships. In his voyages down the coasts, he looked with wonder on the great forests, and at the mouth of the river that the Númenóreans called Gwathir, River of Shadow, he established Vignalonde, the new haven.
Oh, dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, foreboding right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. That's really sending up the old signals about what's going to come, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I just think about that he looked with wonder on the great forests, parentheses that will not always be there, end parentheses. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Well, that was a short reading, but it was a really important one because it sets up all sorts of things that are going to be going wrong or going sideways.
Sideways at the very least, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Now, let's start with one particular thing. Last week we mentioned that this rift between Meneldur and Aldarion would result in a full-blown estrangement. And here it is, right
And folks, it gets, by the end of this episode, the estrangement becomes open rebellion. So
yes, he doesn't just go no contact.
No, that's true. No. And so as a result of this estrangement, Aldarion isn't even telling his dad anymore about what he wants or intends to do. And again, I just come back to last week and the whole thing when he first came back from his first voyage and how his dad was like, so what was it, son, that lives most in your memory from this trip? Like, he cared because that's the kind of guy Meneldur is. The problem now is he doesn't want to hear it because the answer is not going to be anything that makes him proud of his son. It's going to be disappointing. So,
yes. Yeah. And you can understand, actually, because it's not just about being disappointed in his son. It's being disappointed in the fact that Aldarion is neglecting his duty.
Exactly. And we will see that throughout this episode, actually. Of course, on the other hand, his mother is still on his side. I don't know. I'm not kind of not a big fan, actually.
No. And I don't actually understand why she's on his side here. Because she's the queen, so she does understand duty. She does understand the fact that Aldarion was born to be king, and therefore he does actually have to, I don't know, spend some time.
But he's my baby boy, and he can't do anything wrong. And
oh, good grief! That is such a stereotype.
I know. I'm just,
But does she have to be such a boy mom?
She kind of is a boy mom, isn't she? As we'll see. She's but we'll see her meddling later. Yeah. But so Meneldur, of course, I love the way this is phrased, perforce let things go. And that is an interesting word choice there by Tolkien, because perforce is used to express either necessity or inevitability. But is this really either one of those?
Yeah.
Or is this happy wife, happy life sort of thing?
Yeah, but here's the thing. Meneldur is the king, right?
Yeah.
Why doesn't he just say, you know what, son, you're done?
Yeah.
Right.
He sort of puts his foot down in like tiny ways, ever so more aggressively throughout this episode. Like, first it's, okay, we're going to put a limit on how much wood can be cut for the purpose of shipbuilding, which is really a very minimal effort.
It's very minimal.
Yeah. Eventually it turns into, well, it goes eventually to a full ban. No, you can't go. But he just doesn't put his foot down soon enough, I don't feel like. He's just
he doesn't. This is not great parenting, to be honest. But what gets me here is that Meneldur puts small obstacles in the way of Aldarion. And all this teaches Aldarion is how to circumvent these small obstacles.
Well, you're not kidding. It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. And in circumventing the small obstacles, he's just creating a worse rift. But also he's pushing Aldarion further away, because if he says, you can't have the Númenórean trees, and Aldarion says, well, okay, I'll have the Middle-earth trees.
They aren't the only trees around here. Yeah,
exactly. So that means Aldarion will definitely not be in Númenor because he wants the... Now, I'm not saying that Meneldur should say, okay, no problem, son, cut down all the trees.
No,
but,
of course.
I mean... Yeah, okay. Aldarion is a grown man at this point. It's not about... Dad putting his foot down to his son. It's about a king saying to the king in waiting, no, this is your duty. You were born to this, and you're shirking it right now.
Yeah, 100%.
But we do get another reason pretty quickly why this is perforce. And it's not just to do with Aldarion's mum. It's the
No.
it's the popularity of Aldarion and the Guild of Venturers.
Yeah.
They're like the rock stars of Numenor, aren't they?
They really are, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, if they had K-pop back in the day, perhaps N-pop. Numenor pop.
And that is a problem. I mean, you give a prideful man an audience, and that's why all of a sudden Aldarion is now even less easy to rebuke or restrain. So what, in effect, could Meneldur have done differently? I mean, there's three dynamics here. You've got the Meneldur Aldarion dynamic, but you also have that dynamic between him and the queen, and then the dynamic between Meneldur and his wife. So you've got these three relationships and the relationship between the three of them, and none of them are quite where they need to be.
No.
It's a tough one. I don't know what he could have done differently other than be a little firmer up front, and just really here are the expectations and you will meet them. I'm sorry, but mom's not going to be able to rescue you from this,
Yeah.
You've got this obligation to do.
And because he doesn't put his foot down, because he doesn't do anything about this, what he gets then, as we've just said, Aldarion and the Guild of Venturers just get increasingly popular. And the more popular they get, the greater their numbers become.
Right.
And then the more
it's a cycle.
Yeah, it is absolutely a cycle. And they become like the heroes of Numenor.
Yeah.
Now what are you going to do? Because it's not just about shutting down your son. You're now telling the entire Guild of Venturers that they can't do what they're doing? Really?
Yeah.
Good luck.
Good luck with that. Because even though he is the king and he doesn't need the popular support, we all know that the popular support is really crucial for him to be able to govern.
Yep.
So,
So as you were saying about the father-son, mother-son, king-queen dynamic, none of this is working.
No. And the popularity of the guild is a reason why, is a reason, not the reason, but a reason. Now, whether that larger guild led to the bigger ships or whether the bigger ships led to the larger guild, we're not told. It's sort of which came first. But at the same time as the guild and Aldarion are growing in popularity, the ships are growing in size. So now they can go farther, go longer, and carry more.
Yeah, and this ties back to what we were talking about last time with Aldarion from a very young age being interested in designing his own ships.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and really he's pushing the boundaries of what the Numenorians have been able to achieve so far. And they've always been mariners.
Oh,
let's face it.
From the very beginning, right? I mean, you had to be to get there.
Yeah. So, I mean, on Aldarion's side here, if we took out of the equation the fact that he's going to be king and he's supposed to be behaving himself in a very different way to what he's doing.
Yeah.
What he is doing is he is pushing forward the boundaries of their technology.
Yeah, he is innovating. He absolutely is. I mean, we've talked before about, strengthening the harbors and the docks and, all of these things. He's working at doing good for Numenor in many ways. But,
of course, Tolkien had his own idea on just how good it was to have technology pushing forward. That's a whole different question, right?
That is indeed.
And shockingly, well, as in not shocking at all, this leads to Aldarion being often long gone from the island. Yeah. That's the natural consequence, isn't it? And this just increases then the opposition from his father, who's understandably going to want his son and heir to be there with him to help in leading Numenor. So this whole thing just perpetuates.
It really does. And that's where we get that thinly veiled, but also really ineffective way of limiting Aldarion. The whole, we're just going to put a cap on the number of trees that can be felled for this purpose. I mean, it's a sideways effort, and it really doesn't accomplish much at all. Is there another decision short of just, you must stop? Is there some sort of policy decision you might have been able to make that would have had a better effect here, do you think? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, you would have thought perhaps he would try actually sitting down over a cup of coffee with his son and saying, look, son, okay, so here's the thing. And maybe approaching him as an adult who is rational and can make his own choices and all that sort of thing. But I think it's gone beyond that by this point. I think that the time to have curbed Aldarion was 20 years ago. And it's just gone way beyond that now. So I don't know. I mean, can you think of a better decision?
No, I was racking my brain even when I was writing this. Like, what could he have done? I mean, like you said, he can't completely neuter the Guild Adventurers. He needs to allow them to continue. The problem is that he needs his son to stay. So what do? Say, okay, you got to resign your leadership of the Guild Adventurers. But the problem is, as we'll see, the Guild Adventurers is very much a cult of personality.
Oh, yes. Yes, they're "Oh, Captain, my Captain," aren't they?
Yeah. So, and we'll definitely get to that. So I don't know that there is anything he could have done differently. No.
But the problem with what Meneldur decides is going to be the obstacle he places in Aldarion's way. Because let's face it, building bigger ships uses more trees. So I get this as well. He tells him, right, no more trees from Numenor. But this just drives Aldarion to look for timber in Middle-earth, right?
Exactly.
He's been there. He's been up and down the coast. He knows that there are massive untapped resources there, ones that his dad can't forbid him from taking.
Yeah, that's right.
So then he establishes Vignalonde at the mouth of the Grey Flood, which is here called Gwathir, but it's mostly known as Gwathlo.
Yeah. And if you look at a map, folks, you're going to see that is roughly halfway between the Brandywine or Branduin and the Eisen, right? Sir Angren. The Grey Flood is the river formed by the Bruinen, the Loudwater. That's the one that flows through Rivendell. It goes sort of southwest. And then the Mythaethel, the Horwell, the one where the last bridge was, that where Glorfindel left that token for Aragorn to find. Those two rivers meet to the southwest of Rivendell at the border of Eregion, and there they flow south where they're joined at Tharbad by the Swan Fleet. So now you're sort of hopefully getting a geographical idea of where this is. Now, per the footnote to this section, Vignalonde would eventually become known as Lond Dire. And we will have a lot more to say about this place, both throughout these episodes in Aldarion and Erendis, but also later when it comes up in the history of Galadriel and Celeborn with James later in the season.
Yep. And just to help with the timeline, this is all still between 750 of the Second Age, when we know the guild was founded, and 800 of the Second Age, when Aldarion is declared the king's heir.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of the king's heir...
But before we do, I want to take a minute to thank the amazing community that has grown up around this show. After all, there is a lot more talk going on at the Prancing Pony podcast, fortunately, than just us.
Indeed. The PPP really does have a warm and welcoming listener community. If you've got questions or just want to talk about how much you love Middle-earth, be sure to check out our common room on Facebook and across all social media. On Facebook, just look for the Prancing Pony podcast. I mean, yeah, there's a page, but you're going to want to join the group for that great fan community.
Absolutely. Now, on every social media platform other than Facebook, we are at Prancing Pony Pod, and you can find our subreddit at r/Prancing Pony Pod. Be sure to check out my daily show, Today's Tolkien Times, on YouTube and your favorite podcast apps. Get your daily Middle-earth fix with everything from Middle-earth Map Mondays to First Stage Fridays. Be sure to watch or listen at youtube.com/@PrancingPonyPod. All right. Well, we were going to talk about the King's Heir, so let's talk about the King's Heir.
Okay. Yep. Okay, here we go, when things get just a little bit worse. But when nigh on 800 years had passed since the beginning of the Second Age, Meneldur commanded his son to remain now in Numenor, and to cease for a time his eastward voyaging, for he desired to proclaim Aldarion the king's heir, as had been done at that age of the heir by the kings before him. Then Meneldur and his son were reconciled for that time, and there was peace between them. And amid joy and feasting, Aldarion was proclaimed heir in the 100th year of his age, and received from his father the title and power of Lord of the Ships and Havens of Numenor. To the feasting in Armenelos came one Beregar from his dwelling in the west of the isle, and with him came Erendis, his daughter. There Almarian the queen observed her beauty, of a kind seldom seen in Numenor, for Beregar came of the house of Beor by ancient descent, though not of the royal line of Elros, and Erendis was dark-haired and of slender grace, with the clear grey eyes of her kin. But Erendis looked upon Aldarion as he rode by, and for his beauty and splendour of bearing, she had eyes for little else. Okay, we have to skip a bit here, because we have to, and we're not allowed to read it all, but it is a shame, but here we go. When 6 years had passed since the proclamation of the king's heir, Aldarion determined to sail again to Middle-earth. Of the king he got but grudging leave, for he refused his father's urging that he abide in Numenor and seek a wife, and he set sail in the spring of the year. But coming to bid farewell to his mother, he saw Erendis amid the queen's company, and looking on her beauty, he divined the strength that lay concealed in her. Then Almarian said to him, "Must you depart again, Aldarion, my son? Is there nothing that will hold you in the fairest of all mortal lands?" "Not yet," he answered. "But there are fairer things in Armenelos than a man could find elsewhere, even in the lands of the Eldar. But mariners are men of two minds, at war with themselves, and the desire of the sea still holds me." Erendis believed that these words were spoken also for her ears, and from that time forth her heart was turned wholly to Aldarion, though not in hope. In those days there was no need, by law or custom, that those of the royal house, not even the king's heir, should wed only with descendants of Elros Tar Minyatur. But Erendis deemed that Aldarion was too high. Yet she looked on no man with favour thereafter, and every suitor she dismissed.
Oh boy. Talk about decisions you might regret.
Choices were made.
Yeah, choices were made. So the beginning of this passage helps us get reacquainted with the timeline, right? Just before Second Age 800, Meneldur tells his son to stay put, right? I'm going to be declaring you the king's heir. Doing that when the heir is 100 years old, that's just how things are done. Remember, this is still sort of a newish kingdom, right? I mean, Meneldur is only the fifth king, and realistically the fourth king, since Elros's son was already 380 some odd years old. It was like, skip me.
Yeah. He's like,
I'm not going to bother.
I'm not doing that.
I've waited a long time. I'm just not going to bother. I will say, though, that Aldarion's going to change this tradition, among others. So just spoilers there.
Yes, he will. And in the meantime, being declared the king's heir helps bring Aldarion back into a reconciled state with Meneldur for that time.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty telling for that time. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. That's doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence.
It sure is.
And in Second Age 800, he is declared the heir, and he's given more titles and authorities, now Lord of the Ships and Havens of Numenor.
I have to say, in a way, this makes really good political sense for Meneldur to do this. I mean, he's playing to his son's strengths. There really is no one better suited for the job, and nobody, more importantly, that the public would rather have with the popularity of the Guild Adventurers. Mm-hmm. And it would at first glance at least suggest that Meneldur might now be able to exercise a bit more authority. I mean, he's not just a captain running around doing his own little thing. Now he's Numenor's captain, right?
Yes.
He's the Lord of the Ships and Havens of Numenor. So you answer to me in this role, arguably answered to him anyway, because he's the king. But there's a part of me that's like, you're giving your son exactly what he wants with very few limits or guardrails. Is this a good idea? I don't know what else he could have done. And I kind of lean towards, yes, it's a good idea, because it's like the last best hope for some sort of like wisdom to show up.
I give Meneldur the benefit of the doubt here that what he wants is to reconcile with his son.
Yeah, I think
and
he
that
really
he
does.
hopes in holding this out, you're going to be the king's heir. Here is the title I am giving you. That this might make Aldarion think differently and perhaps, feel differently towards his father and towards Numenor.
Yeah, towards his responsibility, right? You are the Lord of the Ships and Havens of Numenor.
Of Numenor.
Not of the Guild Adventurers,
yes,
but of this place, of the people that you will be king for,
Yes, it's a shame it doesn't work.
I know. It was a try. An effort was made.
Now, the proclamation of the king's heir is a really big event for the right people in Numenor. And of course, as you'd expect, there were feasts in the palace, all sorts of parties, etc. And one of the men who comes to this feast is Beregar, a direct descendant of Beor.
Yeah.
And his daughter Erendis, here we go, described as dark-haired and of slender grace with the clear grey eyes of her kin. Now, she is 29 years old in 800 of the Second Age, because she was born in 771. And Aldarion is already 71 years old. Now, this sounds creepier than it actually is.
71 to 29 does sound like an awfully big age gap, but we will math out that age gap in detail later. But I promise you, folks, it's not quite as bad as you might think, given the way the Numenorian extended lifespans operate. while we will get into that mathematical detail later, for now, I just want to say that as a man of 100, right? That's how old he is now, born in SA 700, is now SA 800. He's more like a 36-year-old man. And Erendis at 29 is roughly 22, almost 23.
Yeah, I mean, that's still a bit of an age gap.
There's
but
still
it's not
a gap.
Quite as red flaggy
it's
as it
not
looks.
71-29, though.
No, which, hooray.
Yeah.
Now, the footnote to this passage here quotes the Silmarillion, but I want to look at more than what the footnote references. So what we need to do is go to chapter 17 of The Coming of Men into the West, where we get clear descriptions of the physical characteristics of the three houses of the Edain. And there we read, "The men of the house of Beor were dark or brown of hair, with grey eyes, and of all men they were most like to the Noldor and most loved by them, for they were eager of mind, cunning-handed, swift in understanding, long in memory, and they were moved sooner to pity than to laughter."
That particular bit really grabbed me this time because, of course, I've read the story of Aldarion and Erendis before, but I don't think it's been until this reading that I've caught this particular difference, and only because we sort of lingered last week on Aldarion being ready to mirth, because I kind of thought that was such a funny way of putting it. But he's ready to mirth, and we're reminded that the people of the house of Beor, the people of Erendis' kin, are moved sooner to pity than to laughter.
Yeah, they're a bit more serious.
They are. And I think we're going to see that as being yet another one of those areas of, a little sore spot for conflict. That same footnote, by the way, also provides a very interesting detail about their line of descent in the House of Beor, as Christopher points out. According to a genealogical table of the House of Beor, Erendis was descended from Bereth. Now, in the War of the Jewels, Christopher actually acknowledges this name as an error. Her name was Beleth with an L, not an R, who was the sister of Baragund and Belegund, and thus the aunt of Morwen, mother of Turin Turambar, and of Rhian, the mother of Tuor.
Wow.
So Erendis is descended from the great aunt of Turin and Tuor.
That's some ancestry, isn't it?
That really is. It also, I think, does give us another glimpse into her physical beauty.
Yes.
Both Morwen and Rhian are described in similar ways, especially Morwen, who, was really one of the most stunning of mortal women, according to the text. So it is interesting, but I love that descent that, all these important people are connected.
But I think it also gives us an insight into Erendis's character. Now, if we're provided with that connection, it's about her beauty, yes. But as we discussed last time, we don't need to bring up the beauty first thing because there's often other things to talk about. And for me here, what's really interesting is the similarity between the personality of Morwen and the personality of Erendis.
You're absolutely right. Those two. Yeah.
They're both very solemn and serious. One of the things that I notice in the relationship, for example, between Morwen and Turin is that it is not what you might call demonstrative.
Oh, no, not at all.
And I am not saying that Morwen doesn't love her son, because she clearly very much does.
She does.
But she either just doesn't know how to express that, or it's just not part of who she is to do that.
You wouldn't describe her as touchy-feely.
Not so much.
You could arguably describe her as cold, Certainly, if you look at the full version of the Children of Hurin's story, you do see moments like that in his childhood before the three of them are separated, before Hurin's capture at the Nirnaeth. And there are times where you just kind of want to shake your head and be like,
say something, do something, you know, something with a little bit of love attached.
A little bit of warmth, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But maybe it's not in her personality, like you said.
It's just not in her personality. And I see so many connections between the way in which Erendis behaves, how she is, and the way in which Morwen behaves. I mean, Erendis
I don't think I've
has
spotted
this
that before. That's a really good insight. Good point.
Thank you, sir. I do love it when you like my stuff.
You're quite welcome. I don't think I'd ever connected Morwen and Erendis, but you're 100% right to do that.
Yeah, and we will be able to, I think, make further connections.
I think so.
Because we'll be able to look at Morwen's relationship with her son and how badly that turns out.
Mm-hmm.
And Erendis' relationship with her daughter and how badly that turns out.
Yeah, once Uncalame is born, I think you're right. We'll see even more of that. Because now that you've mentioned that, I'm playing those moments in my head and seeing a lot of that same sort of...
There's a pattern here.
There is. There really is. And I think we're going to spot that as we go forward.
Yeah.
Excellent catch.
So, right now, Erendis is not checking out Aldarion's readiness to mirth. Oh, no. She's checking out something very, very different, as he rides away from her or whatever. Anyway, for his beauty and splendor of bearing, she had eyes for little else. Aldarion's a bit of a looker.
Apparently so.
Yeah, apparently so.
We do know that, right? He's tall, he's blonde, he's a good-looking guy. Yeah.
Yes, we've had all that description. We actually looked at that, didn't we, last episode? Unsurprisingly, she is immediately drawn to her. I mean, he's pretty. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. And I'm sure he's dressed well. And, well, like we read, right? Not just that he looks good, but that he's got a splendor of bearing. Yeah. This is a guy who is on top of the world.
Yeah.
He is... Self-confidence is not something he lacks. He might lack some wisdom. He might lack restraint. He does not lack self-confidence. So he carries himself accordingly. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And she likes the way he uses his walk.
Yes, she does. That's true. Oh.
Yeah. In the bit of this that we skipped in the reading, she actually enters Almarian's household.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I'm going to go work for the queen. I want to get closer to this guy.
Absolutely. I mean, you've got to be honest. She's working this. She's doing her best. I don't blame her here.
No.
So she works for the queen and is said to have found favor also with Meneldur. So she's working the potential in-laws.
She is. And that's pretty impressive. She is a young woman. She's, not from the line of Elros. And we'll get to that as well. But boy, it sure is interesting to see her already getting there. I also thought it was interesting in the text. I don't think I put this in the notes, but we're told about her beauty almost through the eyes of Almarian. She's the one who observes her beauty.
Oh, yes.
Not Aldarion and not Meneldur. He's not, look at her, son. She's pretty. No, it's the queen.
There are things, actually, that I would love to talk about in terms of Aldarion's lack of response, really, to Erendis' beauty. Yeah. It's fascinating to me. And there's actually been some wonderful up-to-date scholarship done on Aldarion. This idea that, I mean, she's there. She's one of the most beautiful women in Numenor at this moment, right? Yeah. She's stunningly beautiful. And Aldarion's like, yeah, okay, I'm off on my boat now.
Yeah.
Right?
My love of the sea still grips me.
Yes, but what do we do with that? Okay, because the love of the sea still grips me, but he seems to have zero interest in women.
Yeah.
We've had no kind of indication that he's had any interest in this.
And later, when Meneldur keeps prompting him to marry him, the more he pushes back. Like, I don't want anything to do with this.
Yeah, and I'd love to pick up on this again later, but some of this new scholarship is talking about how Aldarion simply is not interested. Yeah. In other words, his full focus is on sailing. Yeah. And one of the reasons, because there's many reasons for it, one of the reasons for this is that he actually behaves like an asexual man, one who has no interest whatsoever in the beauty of others or he's not sexually attracted. This just isn't a thing. He's off on his boat. And I find the new scholarship on Aldarion really interesting here for that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, he certainly doesn't seem to have, I mean, he should at least be acknowledging, we should be seeing that, she caught his eye or something. I mean, that's what we see in all the other male characters. Baron immediately captured under this spell, right? Even Thingol is immediately enraptured by Melian's beauty. Aldarion's like, who? I didn't catch it. Who? I didn't see who you're talking about.
There's this throwaway line where he says, there are some beautiful things around here too, but I'm leaving now.
Yeah. It's interesting because we'll get to that. That was in this reading exactly where she think, he was saying that for my benefit.
But
I think he might have been saying the second half of that line more for your clarity. The love of the sea still grips me.
Yes.
As we'll get there. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So She's working in the palace, and both Meneldur and Almarian seem to think highly of her, but she rarely sees Aldarion.
Oh, yeah, of course. And that's because he's off doing the forestry thing, right? We read that he busied himself in the tending of the forests. And that's because he wanted to ensure that Numenor had a timber supply that wouldn't run out. This is good, right? This is again, we've talked before, just like last week, we're not going to always bash Aldarion. We're not going to always bash Erendis. There are plenty of opportunities for both, but there are also plenty of opportunities to say, well, this is a good decision. Yes. I mean, he's trying to practice good forestry. And I think next episode, or maybe later in this one, we read where he says to his dad in anger, there are going to be more trees at the end of my reign than there are now, right. Even though I'm chopping them all down to build ships.
Yeah. He might behave like a doofus on occasions, but he is not a two-dimensional villain figure.
No, not at all. And he's a very smart man, at least when it comes to these resources. He knows that he needs to shepherd these. So while this is all happening, Aldarion's merry men and the guild adventurers, they want to get back to the sea, right? They don't like sailing under lesser commanders. And this is where we come back to that thing about, well, what Meneldur could have done. And this is the drawback to building a cult of personality. They don't want to follow anybody but you, Aldarion.
Yes,
you might have
wise.
second in command, but now this is the kind of thing that when you die, the Guild of Adventurers is going to die. They don't want to follow anybody but you.
Yeah, that is a massive problem, actually.
It is a very big problem. You need to build leadership that sustains and that can, run forever, even in your absence. And then that way, when you're king, the guild can keep doing its guildy thing while you're ruling the people and loving the land. But you're not gonna do that,
what? I don't think Aldarion's even got that in his head at this point. He's not
thinking that far ahead in anything except for lumber and shipbuilding and sailing. He's very singularly focused. Yeah.
Yes, which, as you said, is not a good thing.
No.
And 6 years later, which would be the Second Age, 806, Aldarion is 106, Erendis 35. As we said before, that's not quite as revolting as it sounds. Aldarion decides it's time to set sail. Now, Meneldur would prefer that he stayed in Numenor and looked for a wife. Aldarion, as we've just talked about, has zero interest in any of that, thank you. He grudgingly permits his son to leave, and I wonder if he really had any choice by then.
That's the thing. This is almost another perforce moment. Yeah.
Yep. And now we get to that meet cute, if you can call it that, because, there's not a lot of sparkage going on here.
No, there's not.
It's all a bit one-sided. Aldarion goes to say goodbye to Mummy, who supported him even when Grumpy Dad didn't, and he sees Erendis.
And this is intriguing, right? I mean, the text tells us that he notices her beauty. I mean, I've got to imagine it's hard not to, even if he isn't attracted in that sense. How do you not observe just empirically her beauty?
Right.
But he does, we're told, see beyond that. And what attracts him in some way is the strength that lay concealed in her, which, again, I think we come back to that line of descent, that connection. That's a Morwen thing for sure. Steel sheen for a reason.
Exactly.
And I think there's a lot of that in her as well.
Yeah, but you just used the word attracted, and I'm not sure he is. I think he's more interested.
Yeah, that's a way to put it.
Because he sees something else.
I think you're right. Yeah. I guess I was thinking in the sense of like what is appealing to him about her, and it's not her beauty, it's that strength, even if it's not attracting in the sense of attraction. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I suppose it puts her just that little bit higher than the rest of the beautiful women around court. He does at least notice that there's something interesting about her, but that's it. Like I said, zero sparkage.
Yeah, zero spark, but I am at least, going to give him a half point for the fact that what he notices about her is a character trait and not, the physical trait.
It's not like her beauty or her inner strength have any impact at all on him at the time.
No, he's off.
He's still off to sail the seven seas or, something like that.
Yeah. And the queen... Are you really sure you want to leave, my eligible son? Is there nothing, wink, wink, points to the woman behind me. Is there nothing that could keep you here?
Yes, I think we're beginning to see why Almarian thought, let's keep this Erendis in court.
That's why she hired
dangle her in front of Aldarion and see if it takes. It doesn't take. Yeah, we get a response from Aldarion that in many ways defines this entire story.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, there are things of more beauty here in this place than there are even among the elves, but I'm a double-minded man and I'm still in love with the sea.
I think it's generous to call himself, mariners are men of two minds. No, you're not.
No,
you've got one mind.
Very, very one mind.
It is very generous to yourself to say that you are of two minds and at war with yourself. You're not at war with yourself.
No, there's no
you
war
made
going
it very
on
clear
here.
what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Erendis does think that what he's referring to in the fairer things in our Menelaus line is her. And she may be right, but it's like he's tossing off a compliment while he's going out the door.
Right.
Right? It does seem like a pretty slim thing to hang your hopes on.
It is a very slim thing. And yet that's exactly what she does. Her heart was turned wholly to Aldarion.
Oh, dear.
Oh, no. I mean, that was just an absolute facepalm moment when I read that. And what's interesting is she knew even then, before it turns out that he was kind of a jerk, she even knew at that moment there was zero chance of this working out. He's literally too high as a descendant of Elros himself for her to ever consider marrying. Now, I wanted to kind of just freeform discussion on this because I didn't have a lot of points to make. I think when we do get into the nature of Middle-earth, we learn that, there is a tradition that Aldarion establishes, partly as a result of his marriage with Erendis, that you should only marry, kings should only marry within the heirs of the line of Elros. But this is really arguably the first generation where that would have even been an option.
Yeah.
Because there's not enough, you'd be cousins too close at this point. And even then, just like with the elves, you didn't marry closer than second cousin. And
no, because ick.
Yeah, exactly. Idril would like to have a word. And, Michael, I don't know what you're talking about. So it's one of these things where, sure, it would have been great for you to date within the line of Elros, but right now that pool is really shallow and looks a lot like you.
Yes.
But I get her point. I mean, she's not noble enough. She's not even of that house, right? She's of the house of Beor, which is less quote unquote noble, as we'll get to when it comes to sort of the lifespan thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting that it's made fairly clear here that the problem is not the fact that she is of the house of Beor, because there is nothing to say that the heir to the king can not marry somebody outside of the line of Elros. This is absolutely fine. Yeah. But of course, what is not really said is the massive problem of not being also of the line of Elros is your time span. Because for Aldarion, time is so much greater. For Erendis, not so much. And this is going to be one of the main problems.
Absolutely. One of the central problems in their relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love the fact that he stops other people making that same mistake after he's already made a doozy of it.
Yes, he has.
Yeah. So even though she believes she has no chance with Aldarion, and even though Aldarion basically said, well, yeah, you're beautiful, but the sea is my mistress, she dismisses anyone who shows her interest. She's turning away those suitors at the door.
Swipe left, swipe left, swipe left.
Yeah, she's only swiped right on one.
And he's off, right? He is just off.
Can you imagine his dating profile?
No.
Oh, dear.
But he's ready to mirth. I still want somebody to put that in their dating profile. I'm serious about that. I want one of our listeners, somebody who actually can be on those apps, since you and I can't. Don't say I love to laugh or I really like a good sense of humor. Just say I'm ready to mirth. Tell me how that works out for you.
The problem is he might be ready to mirth, but because all he wants to do is sail, he's also ready to birth. So it's
birth with an E, of course.
Birth with
Great
an E. Oh
pun.
gosh, yes.
I love that.
Thank you.
That's brilliant. Absolutely.
Yeah, but it would read very badly in any kind of Tinder profile, Grindr profile. I'm not judging.
No.
Yeah, enough of that. I think we should move on to the next reading.
I think we should. All right. So he's off, right? He heads off, and that's where we're going to pick up. 7 years passed before Aldarion came back, bringing with him ore of silver and gold. And he spoke with his father of his voyage and his deeds. But Meneldur said, "Rather would I have had you beside me than any news or gifts from the Darklands. This is the part of merchants and explorers, not of the king's heir. What need have we of more silver and gold? unless to use in pride where other things would serve as well. The need of the king's house is for a man who knows and loves this land and people which he will rule. Do I not study men all my days? Said Aldarion. I can lead and govern them as I will. Say rather some men of like mind with yourself, answered the king. There are also women in Numenor, scarce fewer than men. And save your mother, whom indeed you can lead as you will, what do you know of them? Yet one day you must take a wife. One day, said Aldarion, but not before I must, and later if any try to thrust me towards marriage. Other things I have to do more urgent to me, for my mind is bent on them. Cold is the life of a mariner's wife, and the mariner who is single of purpose and not tied to the shore goes further and learns better how to deal with the sea. Further, but not with more profit, said Meneldur. And you do not deal with the sea, Aldarion, my son. Do you forget that the Edain dwell here under the grace of the lords of the West? That Uinen is kind to us and Osse is restrained? Our ships are guarded, and other hands guide them than ours. So be not overproud, or the grace may wane. And then we're going to skip a little bit again because we must. He spoke no more to his father of such matters, but passed his days upon the ship Eambar in the company of the venturers, and in the building of a vessel greater than any made before. That ship he named Palaran, the far wanderer. Yet now he met Erendis often, and that was by contrivance of the queen. And the king, learning of their meetings, felt disquiet, yet he was not displeased. It would be more kind to cure Aldarion of his restlessness, said he, before he win the heart of any woman. How else will you cure him, if not by love? Said the queen. Erendis is yet young, said Meneldur. But Almarian answered, The kin of Erendis have not the length of life that is granted to the descendants of Elros, and her heart is already won.
Oops.
Yeah, can't unring the bell.
You can't, can you? Yeah. So we've just had another time jump. It's now 813 of the Second Age. Aldarion is 113. Erendis is 42. But again, thanks to the Numenorean aging, that's roughly 39 and 24. So again, not too terrible. It's important, actually, that we keep tracking all of these different ages as they move through, because you'll see how, for Erendis, this becomes much more of a problem.
Much. Mm-hmm.
She gets older to a point where it's starting to push into the end of her youth.
Yeah.
And this is going to be a real big problem. And we'll come back to this in a bit more detail at the end of the reading, where Queen Almarian makes a point about her age.
And a very good point at that. So Aldarion comes back this time with wealth in precious metals. And while that just sounds like ordinary wealth to us, it is a bit more than that for Numenor. Dawn and I talked about this last year in episode 345, where we were covering a description of the island of Numenor. There we learned that the Edain, when they sailed to Numenor, were not able to bring much in the way of materials with them when they initially sailed to the Land of Gift.
Yep, and we read there that for long, all metals in Numenor were precious metals. They brought with them many treasures of gold and silver and gems also, but they did not find these things in Numenor.
Exactly.
So that's important.
That's very important. And right after that, the text drives the point home even more clearly. Of the elves of Eresia in the days of their friendship, they had at times gifts of gold and silver and jewels, but such things were rare and prized in all the earlier centuries until the power of the kings was spread to the coast of the east. And obviously that power is about to grow, but it hasn't grown yet. So gold and silver and jewels are at this point still very rare and prized.
Which is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you think about how this is the land of gift and we make assumptions about just how, wonderful their life is. But it's wonderful not because they have all of the gold and the jewels and the stuff.
Yeah.
It's because of the beauty of Numenor and the peace that's there.
Oh, and we'll get to some of that. We'll get to that stark contrast actually later. Yeah. They don't have a lot of ore. They don't even have a lot of iron. Like that text said, all metals are precious metals. And we're going to get to what they do have. And it's the things that grow rather than the things that are found in the earth. But
yeah. And now, knowing all of this about the rarity of precious metals in Numenor, that makes Meneldur's response all the more significant, right? It's really understandable. What he says is, all of this wealth from Middle-earth and even news from there is of less worth than your presence would have been.
I love that.
That's heartbreaking.
He's so wise here about this. Look, this, good and all, but that's the job of others. This is the job of merchants and explorers. I don't know, say maybe this guild of venturers that could be sailing under somebody else's authority and doing this kind of thing. This ought not to be your job.
Right.
And I really like Meneldur's humility here. What's the point of all this gold and silver except for pride? I mean, sure, we can make silver goblets, to drink wine while we're here at court, but iron or wood would work just as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have to have this silver and gold. Your job, son, you're going to be the king. Your job is to know and love Numenor and its people, because your job is going to be to lead them.
Right.
And he is singularly focused on this and has been really since Aldarion was young.
Right. And isn't it interesting that what we're seeing here is yet more emphasis on the difference in the pride of Aldarion and the lack of pride, the humility of Meneldur, who has zero interest in all of these riches because other things are far more important to him.
Yeah.
Whereas we know that Aldarion is extremely prideful. So perhaps it's no surprise then that he is attracted to the gaining of gold and silver and jewels and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to make him popular among his men,
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Bringing home treasure. Yeah.
Yeah. And Aldarion seems to think that since he captains a bunch of young adventurers, he is capable of leading. I'm not convinced that what he's doing is leading in the sense of the ruling that a king needs to do.
No, not that kind of leading. I mean, there's some, right? I mean, there's some parallels, but.
Yeah. But I mean, in a way that makes sense. Leadership is leadership, but leading a group of men who already think pretty much the same as you is one thing. And not only that, they almost worship him. Yeah. Right? As you said, it's a cult of personality. Really to them, he is, oh, captain, my captain. And they love him. Yeah. Now, leading a nation made of men and women. And I really, really like that Meneldur made that point because it's so important.
Half the people here are women, dude.
Yeah. And many of them are not going to be like-minded.
No.
Especially as we know that the women are not as attracted to being out on the ocean as the men.
Exactly. Yeah. We've been told that already.
So this is something else entirely. He is not, as Aldarion is, I don't know if he's deceiving himself or if he genuinely thinks that this is preparing himself for leadership in a kingly role. But no.
Yeah, he thinks so. But Meneldur's like, you've got a lot more learning to do about leadership than just running a bunch of, basically being the president of a fraternity is what you are. And that's just not that impressive. Also notice, you mentioned Meneldur pointing out half the people on this island are women, son. But I also noticed that Meneldur isn't blind to Aldarion's manipulation of his mom. Like, your mother, whom indeed you can lead as you will.
Oh, like,
that I think comes back to what we talked about earlier. It's not just, if to some extent Almarian is saying, oh, he's my son, he can do no wrong. It's because Aldarion has manipulated her and he's got her in his back pocket, basically. I can always make the queen do what I want her to do. Yeah.
Yes, that's what you get with a boy mom. I mean, all of this almost inevitably leads to Meneldur's reminder to Aldarion that he must someday marry. Yeah. Because he's going to need an heir and a spare, after all.
That's right. Aldarion, though, he's there may come a day when the sea dries up and the wind no longer drives the sails.
Oh, Lord.
There may come a day when the strength of mariners fail.
Oh, boy.
And we must reluctantly take wives, but it is not this day. It is not this day.
This day we sail.
That's right. This day we sail for the guild.
Oh, good grief. Now, note how he not so subtly says that if you keep talking about me getting married, I'm going to delay it even further. I mean, for goodness sake, talk about stomping around and having a toddler tantrum.
Seriously.
Actually, that's a really teenager thing to do, isn't it?
It is. It is. I have a 13-year-old son, and I don't even think he would do that.
No, he says he has other priorities. He says, my mind is bent on them.
Ooh.
And just last week, when we first met him, we read that he was ever more bent on his own will.
I don't think bent's a good word here.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yes.
I don't.
Yeah. Well,
Not in
the
this
idea
context.
of bending something, though, of twisting it to make it what you want it to be, and feeling like this is something either you have to do or only you can do. But his priorities are not good priorities.
No. And then he quotes what has to be a known proverb. I sort of like this idea that there's some sort of history about mariners here in Numenor, enough that he can quote this rhyme about cold is the life of a mariner's wife. And he argues that instead being single would enable a mariner to go further and, quote, learn how to deal with the sea. Oh boy. Deal with the sea.
Deal with the sea. Yes. Yeah. Aldarion just has zero interest in being married. He's got zero interest in producing heirs. Yep. He just wants to do what he wants to do. And there's a real selfish streak to him here.
There is.
Yeah.
There really is. Yeah.
And Meneldur's response here is spectacular.
It is, isn't it?
He first quickly addresses and sidesteps the bit about going further. I mean, fine, you can go further if you're single, but to what end? But it's his reply to how to deal with the sea that I think is absolutely fantastic here.
It really is. And it gets us back to that bigger picture. I mean, the sea isn't something you're ever going to have mastery over. Not ever.
Right.
We live here under the grace of the Valar. This place is the land of gifts. Uinen is good to us, restraining the anger and wildness of Osse. And I love this line in particular. Our ships are guarded and other hands guide them than ours. This isn't just some sort of passive shield. This is an active protection. He's trying to get Aldarion to understand this reliance on the Valar and on the Maiar, Uinen and Osse, requires us to not become overproud.
Yeah.
And, you and I mentioned last week how the pride leads to the hubris, right? That pride isn't on its own always every single time a bad thing, but that it can lead to hubris. And that made me think the hubris thing plus overproud put me in mind of the word that Tolkien used in the Homecoming of Beorhtnoth, Beorhthelm's son, overmode, which was absolutely fatal in the case of Beorhtnoth.
It was.
And got most of his men killed too, for that matter. And that's the problem. That's where Aldarion is at. He's not just prideful, he's got overmode.
Right. And that it may not lead to the death of all of his men, but it is going to lead to some serious consequences.
Very serious consequences, no doubt.
Now, we skip the next little bit of their chat, but it's not just about having humility in dealing with the sea. It's about showing restraint too. In other words, don't assume that the same protection is going to apply if you do dumb things.
Yeah, it's pretty much a Fafo moment right there. That's what he's trying to tell Aldarion, the family-friendly version.
Can you imagine how grumpy and stompy Aldarion is at this moment? I mean, he is the greatest mariner, and Daddy is telling me that actually I'm not doing this very
You're
well.
Not as great as you think you are.
Yeah. And Aldarion's comeback to this is, what's the point of that grace if we can't sail anywhere new and see things no one else has seen?
The thing is, there's some validity to that question. There really is. I mean, his objective is to, like we talked about earlier with technology and building bigger ships and things, go further, do more. Okay, what is the point of Uinen's protection and of living under the grace of the Valar if we can't do more? But boy, is this also a foreshadowing of the shadow itself descending on Numenor?
Yes.
The idea of what is the point of our longer lives if we can't also be like the elves? What is the point of living here if we can't go over there?
Right.
This is not accepting your place, the limitations that you have on you. And like I said, there's some validity to it, but boy, it is foreshadowing, isn't it?
It is. And you know what? I think we're coming close to an answer to your question about why this story. Why is this one recorded?
Yeah.
Because there's so much foreshadowing here for all the things that will eventually bring Numenor down. Yeah. It's the start. It's really right here. And it's only, it's only partly into its history.
700, 800 years in. Yeah.
Exactly. But here I think we really do have the beginnings of the downfall of Numenor. They are the little seeds of that are right here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So the conversation just stops.
Yeah.
He stops talking about it altogether. And
it's a mic
that's
drop.
where we picked back up.
Exactly. So that's when Aldarion retreats to his houseboat and frat bros, deciding to build an even bigger boat.
Of course, because you've got to compensate, right?
Exactly. He builds the Palaran, which means far wanderer, like the text tells us. A little bit of word nerdery. The Pal, of course, is the same element in Palantir, which means far-sighted. And that Ran element is wander, just like in Mithrandir, the gray wanderer.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, he meets Erendis more frequently thanks to his mom's interference. Thanks, Mom. I like Meneldur's hesitation to this, right? He's of two minds. Like, yeah, okay, that's not a bad idea, but I think it would be better if he would settle down before finding a wife. And I like the way he puts it because it would be more kind to cure him of this first. He's thinking of Erendis and what sort of life she'd be getting herself into. I really like that. It shows a little bit of foresight.
We're told that he's wise.
Yeah. He's certainly ruling that way.
This is real wisdom. And of course, he's going to be proved right, isn't he?
Yeah, he will. It would definitely be more kind to cure him. And if you can't cure him, well, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Almarian figures the best cure for that restlessness is the love of a woman.
Maybe for somebody else, but not for him. Like you pointed out, he just doesn't seem interested.
No.
If he was motivated by that, then yeah, sure, maybe.
But you've got to pick something someone's actually motivated by if it's going to stop them from doing something you don't want them to do. And here's where we get to the aging bit, actually, at the end of the section you were reading. Meneldur argues that she's still young, therefore she can wait. But Almarian has a really good point. She says that the kin of Erendis don't have the same lifespan of the descendants of Elros.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, the time is not going to pass in exactly the same way for Aldarion or as it will for Erendis and vice versa. And it's also too late on the win the heart thing because Erendis is already in love. Well, she is, but Aldarion isn't.
No. If I can borrow a proverb, that ship has already sailed.
Oh, very good.
So let's go back to that aging bit. In The Nature of Middle-earth, we told you we'd talk about this a little bit. We read there that the Numenorians were not of uniform racial descent. Their main division was between the descendants of the House of Hador and the House of Beor. There were also a handful of people from the House of Haleth, and that's also how the Druidine got there, but that's a whole nother story. We'll talk about that when we get to the Druidine. These two groups, the text says, originally had distinct languages and in general showed different physical characteristics. Each house had, moreover, numerous followers of mixed origin. The people of Beor were, on the whole, dark-haired though fair-skinned, less tall, and of less stalwart build. They were also less long-lived. That's so important.
Yes. And not only are they less long-lived than the House of Hador generally, but the line of Elros was given even longer lifespans.
Yeah.
So actually the difference between Aldarion and Erendis is even greater just because of the house that she's descended from. Mm-hmm. Youth was said to be from about 25 to 125 for Numenorians in general, but 25 to 200 in the line of Elros, with vigor, whatever you want to define that as, lasting to 175 and 300 respectively. And look how that gap grows.
Yeah, the line of Elros gets a lot more. Yeah. And because she's of the House of Beor, it's even less than the standard Numenorian line.
Right.
And she's pure blood, right? So she's going to be even less. The line about how each house had, moreover, numerous followers of mixed origin. So if you've got somebody who's part Beorian and part Hadorian, well, they're going to have a lifespan that's somewhere in between. Their vigor might last to, 100 and 180, 170, 175, like the text says. But somebody who's Beorian purely is going to have a shorter lifespan than that. So while we might not be fans of Almarian's meddling in general, she is right to remind Meneldur that Erendis isn't going to have the typical Numenorian lifespan, let alone the lifespan of somebody in the line of Elros.
Yep, indeed.
Plays a big difference.
We told you about the amazing PPP community after our earlier break. If you're a part of that community and you want to enjoy something even more special, come join the Fellowship of the Podcast on Patreon. You get to be in the best Discord community around, one that includes host hangouts and even live episode recordings.
That's right. And your support there is what enables me to work full-time doing all of the shows. The PPP, Today's Tolkien Times, Rings of Power Wrap-Up, and my streaming show, The PPP Plays. When you join, you also get episode postscripts, ad-free episodes, free merch, and more.
And you can join the Questions After Nightfall episodes, or even appear as a guest in the North Wing. Go to patreon.com/prancingponypod to show your support and join the Fellowship of the Podcast.
And don't forget to rate and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And please recommend us to your friends. You can do that directly on Spotify now. You can literally just share the show with your friends. In the meantime, Sara, I want you to pick up because we're going to get to one of my favorite moments in this story here.
Yes, I do love this bit. Okay. Now, when the great ship Palaran was built, Aldarion would depart once more. At this, Meneldur became wrathful, though by the persuasions of the queen, he would not use the queen's power to stay him. Here must be told of the custom that when a ship departed from Númenor over the great sea to Middle-earth, a woman, most often of the captain's kin, should set upon the vessel's prow the green bough of return, and that was cut from the tree Oyolare, that signifies ever summer, which the Eldar gave to the Númenorians, saying that they set it upon their own ships in token of friendship with Osse and Uinen. The leaves of that tree were evergreen, glossy, and fragrant, and it throve upon sea air. But Meneldur forbade the queen and the sisters of Aldarion to bear the bough of Oyolare to Ròmenna, where lay the Palaran, saying that he refused his blessing to his son, who was venturing forth against his will. And Aldarion, hearing this, said, "If I must go without blessing or bow, then so I will go." Then the queen was grieved, but Erendis said to her, "Tarinja, if you will cut the bough from the elven tree, I will bear it to the haven by your leave, for the king has not forbidden it to me." The mariners thought it an ill thing that the captain should depart thus. But when all was made ready, and men prepared to weigh anchor, Erendis came there, little though she loved the noise and bustle of the great harbour and the crying of the gulls. Aldarion greeted her with amazement and joy, and she said, "I have brought you the bough of return, lord, from the queen." "From the queen?" said Aldarion in a changed manner. "Yes, lord," said she, "but I asked for her leave to do so. Others beside your own kin will rejoice at your return, as soon as may be." At that time, Aldarion first looked on Erendis with love, and he stood long in the stern looking back as the Palaran passed out to sea.
Wow. Okay. As we often say, there's a lot to unpack here. The notes at the end of the story tell us that this next journey took place 3 years after he returned from his last one. So this is Second Age 816, and Meneldur is fuming.
Oh, yeah.
Aldarion's not taking his advice, and he isn't exactly acting like the king's heir. I just keep coming back to that line. The need is for a man who knows and loves this land and people.
Yes, and he is not fulfilling that. Instead of forbidding him to go, he gives in again to Almarian's request.
Yeah.
He could put his foot down.
He could, and he eventually will at the very end of this section. But why is it just trying to keep the peace? A little bit of pick your battles, man. Pick your battles. But should he have picked this battle?
Yes, I think he should.
I think he should have. It's his job as king, because he's king even before he's just
dad.
The husband or the dad role. King is the most important role that he's got.
He has a duty. Aldarion has a duty.
He
and
absolutely
I think actually Meneldur is kind of shirking his own duty here.
He's taking the easy way out.
Yeah.
And I feel like he needs to just stand up, and he finally does, but by that point it's arguably too late.
Way too late.
Yeah.
The narrative here stops telling the story and instead puts us right into exposition or backstory mode.
It does.
Yeah, it's interesting that he doesn't try to put this explanation in the voice of a character, but he just does it as an aside to the reader. Here must be told.
It is very different from, like in The Lord of the Rings, you would expect Pippin to ask Gandalf a question, or something like that, so that the story can be told of oh, well, this green bough of returning is because of this and that and blah, blah, blah. And instead, we have just the narrative telling us. And it reminds me of what we talked about last week, that a lot of times Tolkien would tell these stories more like entries in an annal.
Yes.
And that only every once in a while would he then expand. But when he expanded, he'd expand forever sometimes. And I feel like this is one of those moments peeking through where when it's a chronology or an annal, he's like, oh, and by the way, this is here because of this.
Yeah. And what we get is details of a beautiful and meaningful ceremony, the green bough of return, placed on the ship's prow by a woman from the family of the captain. Yeah,
usually, certainly, at least when possible. The footnote here reads very simply, very shortly, on the tree Oyolaire, see the description of Numenor. Can I just tell you that is a deeply inadequate footnote. So we are going to remedy that by reading that portion of the chapter, because I got to say, it is beautiful. We talked earlier about the resources that Numenor has. It may not be silver and gold. It may not even be iron. It is this. At the center of the Bay of Eldanna was the most beautiful of all the havens of Numenor, Eldalande the Green. And hither, in the earlier days, the swift white ships of the Eldar of Erendis came most often. All about that place, up the seaward slopes and far into the land, grew the evergreen and fragrant trees that they brought out of the west, and so throve there that the Eldar said that almost it was fair as a haven in Erendis. They were the greatest delight of Numenor, and they were remembered in many songs long after they had perished forever, for few ever flowered east of the land of gift. Oyolaire and Lairolasse, Nessamelda, Vardarianna, Taniquelasse, and Yavannamire, with its globed and scarlet fruits. Flower, leaf, and rind of those trees exuded sweet scents, and all that country was full of blended fragrance. Therefore it was called Nisimaldar, the fragrant trees. Many of them were planted and grew, though far less abundantly, in other regions of Numenor. But only here grew the mighty golden tree Malinorne, reaching, after 5 centuries, a height scarce less than it achieved in Erendis itself.
Well, now I know where I want to go on holiday.
I know. There needs to be like a resort spa hotel here in Nisimaldar.
It just sounds amazing.
They don't even have doors that close. You just have screens to keep the bugs out, but you can smell all night long the fragrance of the trees.
It sounds absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
And of course, that Malinorne tree is the Malorn. But that's a discussion for another time, right?
It is indeed, yeah.
But we just wanted to bring in the beauty of the Oyolaire and the other fragrant trees that made this place so wonderful, and also because Alan just won't stop reading Quenya.
Well, there is that. That's true. So back to the text, just like the tree itself, this green bough tradition also came from the Eldar, right? We're told that they put this Oyolaire on their ships to signify their friendship with the Maiar, Osse, and Uinen. But while Meneldur at this point will not forbid Aldarion to go, he absolutely is like, you know what? I can't stop you, but I'm not going to bless you. You're doing this against my will. You go with no blessing.
Oh, I mean, this is it's kind of awful, really, isn't it?
It's like, just forbid him to go if you're going to do that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, word of this comes to Aldarion, who essentially doesn't seem to care. Yeah. I mean, he's going to go anyway. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, yeah. I mean, not that a symbol of friendship with Osse and Uinen means anything to him.
No.
I mean, after all, he's all about dealing with the sea, right?
He doesn't care about their protection. He doesn't think he needs it.
Yeah, which, ridiculous. Anybody who sails knows that you're not in charge of the sea. It's in charge of you. But anyway, the Queen isn't happy about this. She doesn't want her son going off without the green bough of return. I mean, you'd want your son going with a blessing because it's scary.
You want him to come back. Even if there's
nothing
rift.
She can do about it.
No.
And here's where Erendis seizes on an opportunity.
She's good at this.
Yeah, she offers to take the green bough on her behalf because she hasn't been forbidden. And arguably, this is a great way to win points with the Queen and maybe Aldarion, but not so much with Meneldur.
Yeah, if he finds out you did this, I mean, you're not going to be in trouble because he didn't forbid you. You made a good point, but that's a rather legalistic point. That's sort of a missing the forest for the trees point, really.
Yeah.
An aside, by the way, Erendis calls Almarian Tarinya. And now I have to break out my word nerdery because even eldamo.org doesn't have the word listed. Like, they're my go-to. Oh, if I can't figure this out on my own, let me go to Eldamo. I type in Tarinya and nothing comes up. But it appears to be a Quenya compound composed of two fairly straightforward elements. One is tar, which is an obvious one that I think a lot of you will recognize. It's an honorific, usually indicating king or queen, like Tar Meneldur. But the Inya element is actually an earlier Quenya element that just means female from the etymologies in the 1930s. That's my hunch. I'm happy to be proven wrong by any Elvish word nerds out there, but that's sort of like my lady, right? I mean, she's acknowledging her highness, right? Her tar status, her royal status, but acknowledging that she's a woman and not just a leader or a high person. So it's just, my lady.
Yeah, makes sense to me. Meanwhile, back at the Palaran, the Guild Adventurers is not keen on flouting tradition because bad luck among sailors is definitely a thing.
Oh, yeah. Superstition, man.
Oh, yeah. And it would be superstitious. Oh, sorry. No. I thought I could talk over the top of that and it just didn't work. Sorry about that.
All right.
That's enough.
That is enough. Definitely.
It would be bad luck to sail without the green bow of tradition.
Yeah.
Possibly Meneldur hoped that this would be what kept Aldarion from leaving?
I don't think he really could have thought that. Did he really think, oh, well, if I withhold the blessing, he won't go?
No. I mean, the sailors might be grumpy about it and worried about it, but if, oh, Captain, my captain says we're going, they're going.
That's the thing. I mean, does he think that he's going to create a revolt among the sailors who are like, we are not going to go with you? Of course they're going to go.
Of course they are, because never in the history of ever have people done really stupid things in following a cult of personality.
Never, ever.
No. Anyway, they were doing what they needed to do to set sail, getting ready to lift the anchor and head out, and then Erendis shows up.
I like what we're told immediately upon her arrival. She does not like it here. The noise, the busyness, and that awful annoying sound of the seagulls. Mine. And of course she doesn't like this. As we're going to learn later in the story, she is from a very different part of this island. She's from inland, a hilly country with rolling downs of grass. She prefers the bleating of sheep to the cry of the seagulls.
Yeah. Yep.
So Aldarion is quite surprised, a little happy to see her as she brings the bow of return, quote, from the queen. But Aldarion, he's no dummy. He's reading between the lines a little bit. Is this really just from the queen? So he presses Erendis a little bit and he gets his answer. Others will rejoice at your return as soon as may be.
And for the first time, we're told Aldarion looked on Erendis with love. Now, talk about a bit of a slow burn. It took him a little while. It's only been 16 years.
16 years.
Since they met. Yes.
This is what we call a slow burn. 16 years from meeting her to, oh,
look, she's pretty.
I like her.
Yeah, notice that he hasn't paid real attention to her at all when she's in court. But here, first of all, she's kind of defying his father, and he likes that. She's brought the green bow of return, which he likes having. And because of this, he looks upon her with love. I don't know about you, but I'm not seeing this as a really good basis for a relationship.
No, it's it's pretty shallow. It's pretty limited. It's pretty narrow focus. And 16 years since they met.
Good Lord, my dude.
Seriously. And you think this is a long time.
Oh, he ain't seen nothing
exactly.
yet.
Exactly. Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Right. And then as he sets sail away from Numenor, I think this may be the first time he finds himself looking back at Numenor.
I think there's some good symbolism there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, shall we continue? Would you like to do the next reading?
I will indeed. It is said that he hastened his return and was gone less time than he had designed. And coming back, he brought gifts for the queen and the ladies of her house. But the richest gift he brought for Erendis, and that was a diamond. Cold now were the greetings between the king and his son. And Meneldur rebuked him, saying that such a gift was unbecoming in the king's heir unless it were a betrothal gift, and he demanded that Aldarion declare his mind. In gratitude I brought it, said he, for a warm heart amid the coldness of others. Cold hearts may not kindle others to give them warmth at their goings and comings, said Meneldur. And again he urged Aldarion to take thought of marriage, though he did not speak of Erendis. But Aldarion would have none of it, for he was ever and in every course the more opposed as those about him urged it. And treating Erendis now with greater coolness, he determined to leave Numenor and further his designs in Vinalonde. Life on land was irksome to him, for aboard his ship he was subject to no other will, and the venturers who accompanied him knew only love and admiration for the great captain. But now Meneldur forbade his going, and Aldarion, before the winter was fully gone, set sail with a fleet of 7 ships and the greater part of the venturers in defiance of the king. The queen did not dare incur Meneldur's wrath, but at night a cloaked woman came to the haven bearing a bow, and she gave it into the hands of Aldarion, saying, "This comes from the Lady of the Westlands," for so they called Erendis, and went away in the dark.
Ooh. Oh dear.
Oh dear indeed.
Oh dear. In defiance of the king. I mean, obviously we'll get to that, but yikes.
Like it's gone from a slight rift to a full estrangement to now what will be called open rebellion. It's full on in defiance of the king. Oh, man.
Okay. Well, that was another relatively short reading, but oh my goodness, was that important, especially for that growing rift between Meneldur and Aldarion.
Just gets worse and worse.
It really does. This is a complete breaking down because you don't defy. He's not defying his father.
No,
he's defying the king.
Remember, he is the lord of the ships and havens of Numenor. His job is to do this, but under the command of the king.
Yeah. Oh boy. And please note the way that Aldarion thinks about this conflict.
Yeah.
Because you'll see some of the exact same traits in how he deals with Erendis later on.
Oh, yes, you will. There are a lot of similarities in the way he interacts with his father and in the way he interacts with Erendis.
Yes.
And it all comes down to that he is the only one that matters. I mean, that's really what it absolutely boils down to in both of their relationships.
Yeah.
But it certainly shows up in similar ways.
Yeah. In some ways, he's like a spoiled child. He does not like to be thwarted. No. He does not like to be told what to do.
No.
He does not like to have anyone in opposition to him.
No.
And when any of those things happen, he just gets what my Irish husband would describe as thran as a donkey. You know.
I literally don't even know that word, but I can imagine exactly. I get it by context.
Yeah,
I get it by context. That's brilliant. Yeah. I love that. Well, the text here doesn't tell us the dates, but the notes afterward do. And so we'll tell you this voyage, his first in the Polaran, was from Second Age 816 to 820. So 3 years after he came back from that 7-year voyage, he goes out on another 4-year trip. So in the 95 years since he has become full grown, he's likely been at sea more than he's been at Numenor. We don't know for sure because we don't have specific details about the lengths or even the number of the sailings between 750 and 800, but he has been gone a lot.
It's really noticeable that the further we get into the story, the more the narrator gives us the details of how long Aldarion is away and how often, because it's such a central part to the story, isn't it?
It just gets worse and worse. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he comes back sooner than he'd originally planned.
So would he another 7-year voyage maybe is what he'd originally thought?
Yeah. I mean, for him, I mean, is 3 years like a 2-week vacation? Who knows?
Seriously. Oh.
I mean, it's seemingly out of possible love for Erendis. I'm still not entirely sold on that. No. He brings gifts for his mom and all the ladies of her house, but it looks like that's all a cover so he can give a really rich gift to Erendis.
Yeah, I mean, if he came back with just a gift for Erendis, that's not going to look good. So he comes back with a gift for his mom and for all the ladies of the queen's household, which includes Erendis.
Mm-hmm.
But Meneldur, again, showing that he gets it. It's like, son, a big diamond is not an appropriate gift unless you're offering it as a betrothal gift.
Right.
So you got to declare your intent. You've got to stop stringing her along, man. It took you 16 years to even admire her. And you do so only as you're leaving for 4 years. You come back with a diamond. You know you've won her heart. You don't need to do that.
It's not fair.
It's totally unfair to her. Stop playing her.
Yeah. And of course, Aldarion, being Aldarion, goes, oh, yes, Dad, you're completely right. That was so wrong. No,
wrong story for that. Yeah.
Oh, boy. The brief dialogue back and forth as Aldarion seeks to insult his father. So the way I read this, actually, when Meneldur says cold hearts may not kindle others to give them warmth at their comings and goings, I think he's saying that Aldarion's heart is cold. I think that it's Aldarion that isn't actually being sensitive. He's not thinking of
that
others.
Makes more
He's not
sense than the way I
was
thinking about this.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if Aldarion has a cold heart, he's not going to warm the hearts of others.
Okay, I see. In other words, because you're so cold and so distant and all you're focused on is the sea, you're not exactly encouraging people to give you warmth. Like,
right.
Nobody wants to be warm to you because you're not warm in return.
Right. And there he is at their goings and comings is the whole, you're going off and then you're coming back and you're expecting us to be all, happy about that?
Exactly. We're supposed to drop everything about, ooh, you're home. Ooh.
Hey, yay, the prodigal son returns. Yes, kill the fatted calf, etc. And Meneldur here is pointing out to Aldarion, I think, that, you've got to start thinking of other people and not just yourself. It's like we were saying earlier, there is a real selfish streak in Aldarion, and he really is. He thinks of himself here. Back he comes with, oh, look, I've got this pretty diamond for you. Aren't I great? In the meantime, Erendis has been twiddling her freaking thumbs for 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah. I would not be chuffed.
No, I can't imagine he would be. So Meneldur reminds him, look, and he doesn't even mention her name. He just says, it's time to think about getting married. He's 120 years old now, Aldarion. Mm-hmm. Going back to Numenor aging, in Nature of Middle-earth, we read about Numenorian marriage that men typically didn't marry until they were at least 45. Mm-hmm. And then, quote, postponement of marriage to about the 95th year was very common. And it was not seldom entered into as late as the 120th year. So in a way, this isn't, it is time to think about it, but it isn't necessarily like now you've got to or you're not going to, because we also read there that for men in Elros's line of descent, quote, it might be as late as the 150th year or even later.
Right.
Ooh.
He's not on the shelf yet.
No.
But I don't think Meneldur is just anxious about, hey, isn't it time you got married?
Yeah.
It's more about, isn't it time you settled down?
Stop being away from the island.
Yeah.
Start being here where you are going to be king.
Yes. Yeah. And it's not really about Aldarion's age, is it? It's much more to do with Erendis.
Yeah. Meneldur gets that now, doesn't he? Yeah.
Especially now that Meneldur understands her lifespan better. Mm-hmm. She's now 49. And most Numenorian women married between the ages of 40 and 45, although marriage wasn't considered unduly delayed, it says in the text, until beyond her 95th year.
Wow.
Which, I know, Lord,
sounds like a lot.
By that point, I'd be so over the whole idea of men, but there you are. But for a Numenorian woman, that is about equivalent to our 35. But let's go back to what you said earlier. For Erendis, that might be for the average Numenorian woman.
Right.
Erendis' lifespan is shorter still. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so
that's a very good point. So, beyond her 95th year would be equivalent to a typical Numenorian woman being 35. It might be equivalent to her being closer to 40.
Yes.
And certainly she's only going to live to be a little bit more than half of his age.
Yeah. By that point, I am definitely getting my own house and a lot of cats. Because what the heck?
Make you wait till you're 95. Ugh. And here's the sad thing, right? She's 49 right now. I'm just going to drop a spoiler right here. Erendis will have to wait a lot longer. And, and here's your spoiler. Her marriage is unduly delayed.
Honestly, that
even in
man.
The standard Númenorian counts. Yeah.
Now we see a huge example of Aldarion's stubbornness right here. The text says he would have none of it, for he was ever and in every course the more opposed as those about him urged it.
Oh,
I mean,
so
tell me you're a
teenagery.
toddler without telling me you're a toddler.
Seriously.
He's just digging in his heels for no other reason than because others suggest he should consider it. I mean, for goodness sake, the man needs a slap. Man. Yeah. I mean, even though he brought Erendis a huge diamond, and even though he came back early, probably, because of her, now, because he's an ass, he starts treating Erendis with greater coolness. Oh, wonderful. Make her suffer because you're mad at your dad. I mean, so many red flags. So many red flags.
So many. Fix your stuff before you try to have this relationship.
Right.
And I love this. Life is irksome. Life on land is irksome. So life is annoying to him. But why? Look at the reasons why, and you're going to start to see this character of Aldarion come into shape. When he's on his ship, he doesn't have to listen to anyone. No king to boss him around, no mom to maneuver him, no Erendis even. And when he's on his ship, he's surrounded by a bunch of people who worship the ground he walks on. And that is what he wants. He wants full autonomy with zero authority or responsibility and only hero worship from beneath. That's what he wants.
What a great king he's going to make.
Oh my gosh, I know. Like, I mean, look, we've said this last week. We'll say it again. Probably have to say it every week. He does some good things. The establishment of the relationships with Círdan and Gil-galad are crucial for saving Middle Earth. And it's so good that he did this. But wow.
Yeah.
He could have been a better person for sure.
I mean, I think there's some real personality flaws here, said she gently.
Said she gently. Oh, I love that. That's a good one. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, the full bullet point list of all the things that make Aldarion a really poor choice as heir to the king right here. I
mean, forget about a relationship with Erendis. This is just not good people, period.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he is unwilling to listen to anybody who, like you said, opposes him, right? Opposition makes him freak out. He absolutely loses his stuff when somebody tells him he might be wrong. That's why he likes it at sea. Not just because he likes the ocean or the salt air or whatever, but because he doesn't have to listen to anybody.
Yeah. And he wants to be where everybody thinks he's wonderful.
Yeah.
And nobody questions him. Nobody gainsays him. Everybody looks to him for every single decision.
He can literally do no wrong.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, this time, oh boy, I mean, talk about a full rift. Meneldur himself is, to quote Aldarion, having none of it.
Yeah.
And he forbids Aldarion from leaving. Finally, he puts his foot down.
Yep.
And it's about 50 years too late. And does that stop Aldarion?
At least, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, of course it doesn't stop Aldarion. He leaves with a full fleet of 7 ships and the majority of the guild in open defiance of his father, the king. Now, think about this. Think about what he's telling his men, what he's actually showing, the example he's setting is open rebellion. I will do as I please.
These guys are willing to disobey their king too, as a result of this. Which, I'm sorry, if I'm Aldarion, I don't necessarily want people following me who have proven a willingness to totally disregard authority. Yeah. I'm going to be your king one day. I'd like to think that you'll follow my rule.
Yeah.
Even if you don't like it.
It's the thing, though, isn't it? What somebody has done to one person, they are quite likely to do to somebody else. So I wouldn't want to encourage that kind of rebellious behavior.
No, and more than half. I mean, the greater number of the guild adventurers.
That's really, really, really bad.
That is telling, yeah.
Even boy mom Almarian is not happy with the situation, but she's not going to risk the same open defiance. She doesn't send the green bow via someone else this time.
No, instead we get this mystery moment, right? The green bow is sent on Erendis' behalf by some anonymous woman showing up at night. I've got to ask, is this the queen herself? using Erendis as a cover? Or is this Erendis herself? Who is this cloaked woman? Who is this masked man? Tune in next week to find out. No, we will never know.
No. So I've always read it as being Erendis.
Yeah.
That it's Erendis. But of course, we have no idea if it really is.
And she would have had a
isn't.
conversation with the queen, like, I'm going to do this again. I do think it's interesting. We've seen now, the green bow has gone from the queen has sent this through Erendis to now Erendis is sending it through Erendis, perhaps, but it's now the queen's not sending it.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to see next week that he sails without it altogether.
Yeah.
And this sort of gradual reduction in the blessing is, I think, really symbolic of the continual, because what is one of the things that we always see in Tolkien? People making stupid choices get opportunities to turn it around.
Yes.
They're given usually lots of opportunities.
It's about choice, isn't it?
It is about choice. It is about, okay, we've told you. No. We've really told you. I mean, whether we're going back, we go all the way back to Feanor and the doom of the Noldor in the north. We could talk about Saruman and the chances that Gandalf gave him when he was imprisoned at Isengard. We could talk about Boromir and his immediate regret and how he turned that around and was like, yeah, I'm doing the right thing now.
So redemption is possible.
Redemption is
possible. If you make the right choice.
You got to act that way. And so he's just given choice or opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, but he continues to repeat these choices. Man, I got to tell you. So at night, a cloaked woman came to the podcast bearing a mailbag, and she gave it into the hands of, me, saying, "This comes from Barlam and Butterbur," and went away in the dark. Sara,
who was that cloaked woman?
Who was that cloaked woman, and what did Barlaman bring for us today?
Okay, so here is a great question, actually.
Mm-hmm.
The question is this. Both Aldarion and Erendis make choices prioritizing their individual desires and principles. To what extent should personal fulfillment be sacrificed for duty to family, kingdom, or greater good? Is either character's position more justifiable? I think that's a really interesting question, because if that is Erendis at the end, cloaked and hooded, then she is also defying the king.
Yeah, she is.
So, but to what extent should we? I mean, this could be about Aldarion and Erendis, but also in general, to what extent should personal fulfillment be sacrificed for duty?
I would say in an inverse relationship to the level of duty.
Yes, I think that's
right. The more
right.
duty you have, the less freedom you have to allow that personal freedom to subsume it. I mean, Erendis has more right to exercise that right now than Aldarion, who actually has a tiny bit more than Meneldur. Like Meneldur has none, right?
Yes.
And he shows that he's okay with that.
Yeah.
But I think it's an inverse relationship to the level of authority and responsibility and duty. And I feel like that is a good question. It's also a question that I think we could ask at so many moments in the Legendarium.
Yes.
Tolkien is very good at throwing those two into conflict. I'm thinking Denethor. I'm thinking even, there's so many moments. Faramir, Boromir. Baragond, for sure. There's so many. Baragond, man. I mean, that's the perfect one. There's so many moments. Hama, the door warden at Medjugorje.
Yeah.
Where, when do you say it's all right to exercise this personal choice rather than, be obligated to duty? Éomer as well. I mean, there's so many moments.
There is so many. But I think you're right to say that it's in inverse proportion to the size of the duty. I mean, if you have that level of duty, with that has probably come great privilege.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, of course.
So, if you want what privilege brings you, then the opposite side to that is duty. It's a bit like, there is such a thing as freedom of speech, but there are also consequences to what you say.
Yeah.
So if you want freedom of speech, you also have to be mindful of what it is that you are saying and what the consequences might be. Mm-hmm. So you always have a balance. And that's another thing Tolkien's very good at, right? Is balance. Yeah. And here the balance is that Aldarion's duty is heavily weighted.
Yeah.
And what he is doing on the other side of that is not balancing it out.
Absolutely right. And it does sort of change slightly the light in which we evaluate both Aldarion and Erendis going forward, at least until Erendis bears Ancalame. Because at that point, she has a duty that is greater than she has prior.
Yeah, yeah. You choose to bring a child into the world. Oh boy, do you have a duty?
Yeah, and it's it's not even a duty for like a week or a month.
No.
You know,
it's a never-stopping, never-ending duty.
The never-ending story. And that, so it's like Aldarion we can look at from the beginning and say you have an obligation and a duty from the get-go. And it becomes greater when you're 100 and you're declared the king's heir. And it becomes even greater when you ascend to the throne, when you take the scepter, when your father resigns the scepter early, as we'll see. So his duty is always higher and never gets less.
Yeah.
Hers starts out lower, but then has to increase much more dramatically when Ancalame is born.
Yes.
And I think we'll see, we rightly bash Aldarion right now because he is not living up to his obligations now. It's going to be a while before we bash Erendis.
Yeah.
But when I say trust me, we'll get there.
She's not done anything terrible.
Right.
She's
foolish,
made a few,
maybe.
Yeah, foolish. That's different.
But and so far her choices are only going to hurt herself.
Yeah, exactly. The choices she's making right now only hurt herself. But yes, as we get further into the story, it becomes obvious that actually it's going to be much more far-reaching because she is going to prioritize her own desires and principles and sacrifices her own daughter to them.
She really does. Yeah.
Yep. And that's something I find hard to forgive.
Yeah. I mean, it has an impact, like we talked about last week, ripples from her choices and her actions with Ancalame lead to problems for the kingdom for generations.
Yep. And they are responsible for that.
They absolutely
Both of them.
Both of them. Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, his level of responsibility has always been high, so we don't necessarily see it as getting any greater. Hers takes a big leap.
Yes.
And so it's all of a sudden now she has an obligation that she didn't have before. And at least certainly in Tolkien's world, because that's the thing, we can talk about, individual freedom and, what you're going to do with your life and what responsibilities you bear to your children in the primary world. And people can disagree and all of that. But Tolkien's worldview, as expressed in his Legendarium, is very clear about what you owe to your kids and what you owe to your kingdom and what, duty is huge.
It is. He's very hot on that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's going to be something
so that was
we come
a good
back
question.
to. It's a very, very good question. Well, folks, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Please come back next week when that estrangement does in fact become open rebellion.
And that's just between the two of us, right?
Well played.
Thank you.
Oh, I know what to expect now. Yeah.
So Alan and I want to thank the members of Team PPP, editor Jordan Reynolds, Barleyman Becca Davis, social media manager Casey Hilsey, event and Patreon community coordinator Katie McKenna, graphic artist Megan Collins, and website guru Phil Dean.
And please take a minute to check out the prancingponypodcast.com. That's where you're going to find show notes, outtakes, ancient Prancing Pony ponderings. Someday there will be more. And we're changing vendors for our merch at the moment, but our online storefront should be back soon. You can get all sorts of cool PPP merch, including all of the amazing chapter art that Megan's been doing for us for more than 3 years.
And we're all about the books here at Prancing Pony Podcast, so be sure to also visit our library page, and we'll try to make sure that any book we've mentioned on the show is linked there for you to purchase. We do get a small amount of compensation when you make your purchase, so thank you for that.
Indeed. We also want to thank our patrons at the Kirdan's contribution tier. I'll start with DeMay in Alaska, Chad in Texas, Lance in New Jersey, Joseph in Michigan, Kathy from North Carolina, Brian in the UK, Jerry from Washington, Erwin from the Netherlands, Ben in Minnesota, Anthony in Texas, Zaksu in Illinois, Joshua in Massachusetts, Lucy in Texas, Erica in Texas, Vivian in California, and James in Massachusetts.
Yep, and there's also Anne in Kentucky, Sean in New Jersey, Mason in California, Maureen from Massachusetts, Olivia in London, Robert in Arizona, Nick in Wisconsin, Lewis in South Carolina, Thomas in Germany, Craig in California, Kevin in Massachusetts, Bruce in California, Joe in Maryland, Scott in California, Jeffrey in Michigan, and Paul in Colorado. Thank you all so very much for your support.
Indeed. Thank you.
Now make sure you don't miss any episodes of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Subscribe now through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or your favorite podcast app.
And one last thing as always, don't forget to send your thoughts, comments, and, well, most of all, your green bows of return to Barliman at theprancingponypodcast.com.
Now, Barliman does have a lot of mail to sort through, though, so we'll try to get to you just as soon as we're able.
And hopefully he's not allergic to any sort of evergreens. As always, folks, this has been far too short a time to spend among such excellent and admirable listeners. But until next time.
How var. Farewell, folks.